everyone. My name is Liza Gentile, and I am the Assistant Director of Alumni Relations. Welcome to our annual Alumni Leaders on Campus Day. This program is a collaboration between the Office of Alumni Relations and the College of Food Innovation and Technology, and celebrates our alumni who are doing such great things in the industry. This afternoon, we have some amazing alumni working directly in the field here to speak with you, and we're so grateful that they've taken time out of their very busy schedules to be here. I know that you'll find their experiences and stories inspiring. I'd like to turn it over to Bridget Sweet, our Executive Director of Food Safety, who will moderate this discussion.
Thanks, Liza. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's discussion. As Liza stated, my name is Bridget Sweet, and I'm the Executive Director of Food Safety, and I'll begin by asking our alumni a few questions. While they're speaking, feel free to ask questions in the Q&A section. Your professor will send them in for you, and they'll be answered during the second half of this program. So, without further ado, alumni, please introduce yourselves, share your major, the year you graduated, your current position, and a description of what you do. So we'll start with Mike, please.
How you doing? My name is Chef Mike Haracz. I actually graduated with a degree in culinary nutrition in 2006, and I'm second oldest panelist of this entire thing that's going on, which makes me upset, but that's okay. Most notably, I was the manager of culinary innovation for the U.S. menu for McDonald's. I've been an R&D chef for quite a while now, 14 years or so. And then after I left McDonald's, I was in some Wendy's commercials, and I do now currently self-employed, but I do a lot of social media, culinary demonstrations. I work with brands like Wendy's or the House Party app, Amazon, and then I also get involved with a lot of nerdy video gaming and tabletop role-playing and other things as a culinary advisor. So I am keeping busy, most definitely.
Thanks, Mike. Lynley?
Hi everyone, I'm Lynley Connor. My year was 2014. I majored in culinary nutrition. I'm based in San Diego now. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Top Notch Catering, which is a school nutrition catering company. We have over 87 charters, preschools, privates, and we work with nonprofit entities like Feeding San Diego and Salvation Army. During COVID, we've gone 5 times past our regular capacity, that even today we're doing 24,000 meals just in one day. And for more of my background, I also am starting an incubator kitchen project as a co-founder that will help build just more of a community economy for San Diego and reinvigorate the local farming initiatives that we have at play here.
Excellent, thank you. Mario?
Thank you so much. Super happy to be here. My name is Mario Limaduran. I graduated in 2014 with a culinary nutrition degree. Attended the North Miami and Denver campus, did 2 years on each campus. And currently I am the executive performance chef at Trifecta Nutrition. I started as the executive chef, and then the role evolved into more of a performance aspect, meaning taking care of everything that has to do related to sports performance. For the last 2 years, I've also been the leader in creating the partnership with the UFC. So we have a 5-year partnership with the UFC where we provide the culinary nutrition services during fight weeks while supporting athletes during their fight camp by sending food from our meal delivery business. If you guys are not aware of what Trifecta or who Trifecta is, we're the largest organic meal delivery company in the United States. We ship nationwide. So 50% of my job is doing R&D, and the other 50% when I'm back in the office in Sacramento, California, is creating content, both in blog form, video form, and also doing R&D for the meal lines as well. I have gone on the entrepreneurship side, and I am starting a company with the intention of creating healthier products that already exist. So R&D has sort of become part of what I do by just by getting into it and doing it. So we're going to launch our first product, hopefully within the next year. It's called Prime Plus Creamer. It's going to be the healthiest creamer, like a healthy cream, coffee creamer to ever hit the market. We can go into details on that later on, but so that's me in a nutshell.
Thanks, Mario. And Meaghan.
Hi, everybody. My name is Meaghan. I graduated in 2009 from the Culinary Nutrition program. I'm currently a dietitian for the Massachusetts WIC program that sits underneath the Department of Public Health. So I've been there for a while now. I've been in public health for a while. But basically, I focus on the education portion of the program from a support basis. So I do a lot of the content for our online learning platform for WIC participants. So WIC, actually, I should say, it's a nutrition and breastfeeding and food assistance program for low-income women and families who have children under 5, just so who anybody doesn't know that. So that's kind of the population. But so I do a lot of training for WIC nutrition staff, motivational interviewing, targeted nutrition and breastfeeding topics. I precept all of the dietetic interns that come through the program. I'm also a ServSafe instructor, so I have quite a variety. But really happy to be here and looking forward to your questions.
Excellent. Thanks, Megan. So our next question is going to be, please tell us about your first jobs after graduation and the path that took you to your current position. So let's start with Mario this time.
Sure, absolutely. So it's a bit of a perfect scenario for me. On my senior year, I was taking athletic performance cuisine in Denver, and Chef Sachs, who is the chef that teaches that lab, had an opportunity with Cornell University. I have a twin sister who majored in hospitality at Cornell, and at the time she was going there on her last semester, and nobody in the class wanted to take the opportunity, and I was always interested in sports nutrition. So I, raised my hand and said, hey, I'll take it. So went to Cornell University and met this gentleman called Clint Waterberg, who was the sports dietitian at Cornell, and he was my boss there for a year. So I cooked for the Cornell wrestling team and worked under Clint at the Cornell sports nutrition department for a year. And after that year, I went to Exos, continued to work in various other positions. I also started doing, I went into fine dining and did a 10-month run on a 2-star Michelin restaurant. And throughout this time, we didn't necessarily stay in contact, but we sort of stayed in touch with Clint. And then Clint left Cornell University and went to become the nutrition director at the UFC. And so when Trifecta and the UFC were sending that partnership, I got a call from Clint and asked if he could get me in contact with the CEO of Trifecta, to which I said yes, since I was interested in having a wider, bigger impact in the food and nutrition world, really on the nation within that realm. And Trifecta was a perfect opportunity for that. So thanks to that connection, on my first job at Cornell University, taking the opportunity to do my internship there, thanks to Chef Sachs, who set that up, I was able to land on the current position that I have right now. And we've taken something that was completely non-existent to creating the #1 sports performance program on earth. So it's been an exciting 2 years with Trifecta.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Now we'll go to Megan, please.
Sure. Could you just remind me what the question is?
Hi, yes. So tell us about your first jobs after graduation and the path that took you to your current position, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I finished my dietetic internship kind of in the middle of the financial crisis, which was fun. So it was very difficult to get a job then. I will say I went on about 20 interviews, but I took that as a nice opportunity to refine my interviewing skills. So never see that as a bad thing, in my opinion. But I ended up working for a public health program, the Child and Adult Care Food Program in the Bronx in New York, really because it was just the best opportunity available to me at that time, to be honest with you. And it just ended up being just a wonderful fit. I will say, coming out of Johnson & Wales with such a strong culinary focus, I really was looking, as a dietitian, I was going into a program, I was really looking forward to a strong clinical program to round me out a bit. And so I kind of ended up nicely in the middle of public health, which has been really helpful to use all of those skills. So really, I've just stayed there within that field for a while. I was per diem at a couple of hospitals, but I really ended up working for WIC, a clinic in Massachusetts for a while, and then I just ended up at the Department of Public Health. And I will say it just felt like a natural progression to me. It was just something that included a lot of variety of different nutrition topics. I could really incorporate my culinary experience from Johnson & Wales into it nicely. And yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Mike?
So I, as a lot of regular culinary students, I grew up wanting to own my own restaurant. After the first 2 years of culinary, I did an externship at the Wentworth Club in Virginia Water, Surrey, which Johnson & Wales obviously organized, and learned so much. And then I had the option of what I was going to do the next 2 years. So at that time, the nutrition program was, half nutrition and half the product development and R&D world, which I was interested in. The story goes that I also wanted to be the guitar player and screamer in a metal band. So after graduating, my nights, weekends, and holidays are show night. I couldn't necessarily be working in a kitchen in a restaurant because I have other passions that I wanted to do as well. So that I tell people the R&D life, I kind of fell into it, which is kind of true, but not really. In my my senior year, the second trimester, I got an internship at Orville Kent Foods, which is a refrigerated food manufacturing company. So then I had a job offer before I even graduated. So I came back to Johnson & Wales from there, which led me down the path. From then, obviously we have a lot of nutrition heavy folks here. And I will say that although I worked for McDonald's, which would be counterintuitive to, let's say, nutritionally sound organization, I felt I wanted to try to impact the world in a positive way as much as I could. And instead of being on the outside pointing fingers, I'd rather work for the company and try to make it better from the inside. So removing artificial ingredients, reducing calories, even going down into how products are marketed towards children, towards family. How do we serve more fruit? How do we reduce fat, reduce sodium? Especially in a world where a lot of those consumers don't necessarily care or are not educated enough to make those types of decisions. So I think that the culinary nutrition path for me was incredibly helpful, even though I did not go down the nutrition path. It very much helped open doors across everything that I've done. Like I said, I worked for McDonald's, and now I do a lot of kind of social media influencer type things as a R&D person. So very much appreciated my time at Johnson & Wales and just being associated with the school. Telling people you graduated from Johnson & Wales gives you so many opportunities and a career advancement right out of the gate. So very much appreciative of my time.
Thanks, Mike. All right, Lynley, can you need me to repeat the question?
No, I'm good, thanks. Just like I said at the last panel too, I took every job that I could. I moved to New York City the day I graduated from Johnson & Wales. And I just took every side hustle that I could, from working on the High Line, being a soda slinger for Brooklyn Soda, to I also would do nutrition work. Just had a couple of clients that I would work with on any other restaurant industry job that I could get. And with the nutrition consulting that I was doing, I just realized I wanted to help people more in a nonprofit sense than help people that they have the means to have great nutrition. So what got me into the school nutrition path was I was able to obtain a position with the DOE, Department of Education in New York City. And I started running 14 schools and realized what a beast the school lunch program really is, what's involved. I also, like Meaghan, I work with CACFPs now and didn't currently then. And then I just kind of went with it and moved to San Diego to build a kitchen for a charter school and help them start their nutrition program. And now with what I've been able to do with top-notch catering, I've helped so many more local farms. We work with Head Start programs, almost 26 Head Start programs. And my goal has to be the biggest local school nutrition catering company that still keeps their ethos. A lot of food service management companies, they tend to transition into, yes, they're hitting all of the dietetics that they're supposed to, but they've lost the flavor and they've lost just just the reason behind why they started it. So we deliver all of our meals to our schools hot daily, which is unheard of. All of the food service management companies on the West Coast and the East Coast, they deliver it frozen because it's just easier. Logistics are very difficult. So what I can say with Johnson and Wales, what it taught me so much with menu costing. I wish I would have focused more on that, because that's everything to make it in any type of industry and food service. It's menu costing, but also like Mike said, just telling people that you went to Johnson and Wales, it's your foot in the door. Saying you have a culinary nutrition degree, everyone always says that's so interesting. It's so diverse that you understand both aspects to the industry. So I'm really grateful for Johnson and Wales was my foot in the door, even with all of my side hustles. They're like, oh, she went there. She knows what she's doing in some aspect. Let's just bring her on.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So I'm going to stay with you, Lynley. What should today's students know about the industry today?
Pre-COVID or after COVID? I would say so. I promoted at the last panel too, that the biggest lesson that I've learned, and my friends that graduated at the same time, is humbleness. Humbleness is so necessary. You can be the best chef in the kitchen, and sometimes it doesn't matter. It matters what's happening in the industry. And at the beginning of COVID, I furloughed all of our staff, including myself, for the first month. And I was cooking all of the meals, packaging, delivering. I did everything to get my team back. So I think with the graduates, when they're coming out right now, it's just being realistic to what's out there, but also being ready to give 150%, even if it's not your job title, even if it's not what you planned on doing when you're leaving. There's always room for growth. There's always room to learn. And it all starts with being humble with it. And I think that the food service industry, from what I'm starting with the incubator kitchen, with the co-founding that, is a lot of things are going to switch to delivery. That maybe just kind of refocusing their mind around, okay, with the knowledge that I have, if I can't necessarily start out in restaurants in the way that I wanted to start, what's kind of technology pushing us towards that I can get my foot in the door with?
Excellent. Thank you. Now, Mario.
Yes, could you repeat the question for me, please?
Of course. What should today's students know about the industry as it's current?
Much like Lynley said just now, I think, and I promoted this in the first session, but think of the food industry as food, not just as restaurant, right? And really, there's a lot of change coming into play in the culinary industry. I think restaurants are going to change forever in the way that they operate and business models. And I think that's incredibly exciting. So looking at it from a very, very wide picture and understanding that, yeah, maybe you got into the restaurant or into Johnson & Wales to go into the restaurant industry solely, but there's really so much more to it, right? Being a dietitian and working public health, or doing content creation, or owning your own company, there's just so much more to it. And I don't know if you guys have heard of this company called Brigade, but it's this incredible food service company that is changing the way that kids eat in New York and in Connecticut. And it was started by the former executive chef of Noma, Dan Guisti. And so he just posted a video that really resonated with me, and he was talking about on his Instagram about how food, like, we need to teach students and young culinary people that the food industry is so much more than just that, and that your impact can be so much greater than that. And even as you're graduating from Johnson & Wales, you have nothing but time. You don't need to have the perfect job. You don't need to, have the dream job. Personally, it took me 10 years to get here. So being insanely patient with yourself and knowing that because we are where we are in 2020 and the situation that was handed to us, things are going to take a little bit of time and to get to what they were in the past. But at the same time, we also have the exciting opportunity to make them that much better. So I would keep all those things in mind, knowing that the innovation that you can bring to the table is massive as a student, as a young culinary professional.
Absolutely. Thank you. Mike.
I think my recommendation in all this would be you, the individual student, the individual person, you are a brand. Everything you do, everything you say, the people you associate with, how you represent yourself visually on social media, on LinkedIn, who you talk about, if you talk negative about groups of people, all of these affect your personal brand, who's going to hire you, what companies want to work with you. And this is well above and beyond just the food and beverage and culinary and nutrition industries. This is, you know, if you want a job in whatever industry, this is affecting you now. The use of social media, things that you may have said 5 years ago on it will always come back and haunt you. So make sure that you are aware, even during COVID times, there are things you can actively do to make your brand more attractive to whoever your employer might be. So if you have a following on social media, if you are an engaging person in whatever community that you love, like I said before, I'm kind of associated with the video gaming kind of nerd space there, because although in my professional career, it's culinary arts, the fun things I like to do, I talk about as well. And it was interesting that a lot of people say, oh, you were a corporate chef for a big old company like McDonald's. However, you are relatable because I too own a PlayStation 4 and pre-ordered the PS5 and can't wait for it to show up. And I play Dungeons and Dragons and love Critical Role and all these nerdy things. A lot of people still don't see that top executives of companies love all the same things you do too. So if you can get your brand, if you get appeal either by random people or executives and CEOs or brands that want to work with you, let's say Food Network, let's say Bravo, any of those, you can absolutely work on your personal brand right now. And I do recommend being a good human, just because that is the safest bet that you can do going forward. So that would be the industry, not only ours, but everywhere, is very much looking at you as the individual, as a brand or brand ambassador for whatever company you want to work for.
Thanks, Mike. And Meaghan, what should today's students know about the industry today?
Yeah, I'd say from my perspective, the nutrition industry has always been competitive, but I think it's getting even more challenging. It's really difficult now for a lot of people. And so I just say, don't be afraid to work somewhere that's not exactly where you want to be. Take the opportunity to get a little uncomfortable and learn about, a different job that you never expected yourself to be in, because you will find gratification from that, and you will find skills that are useful in other ways. I'd say get involved in as much as you can, find unique ways where you can insert your expertise, and just use what you have to find what they're missing. Because I'll echo Lynley, JWU is it's a great reputation, and anybody who learns that will think that is incredibly interesting about you. So use it as a strength and consider it a strength. And I've heard this from multiple people. Not only do you have a good reputation, but Johnson & Wales students have a great reputation for their work ethic. We work incredibly hard. Nobody knows what it's like to go through culinary school. It's incredibly challenging. I have dreams about it still. It's hard. So you come out of that like strong. Like, it's hard to put you down, I'll say that. So, use that. Just remember that. Remember what school was like, and use that as you go out into the workforce.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and transition to questions from the students. Do any of our faculty members who may be on have questions to put in the chat box? Nothing yet.
We told everybody everything they want to know already. We're that awesome.
Pat. It just takes them a while to type in the box.
If I may add something to what Meaghan just said, Johnson & Wales, the specifically culinary nutrition program was very much so ahead of its time. I strongly believe and see that. The fact that we were able to graduate from that program and combine and be that bridge between nutrition and culinary, and understand how to make food nutritious but at the same time tasty. That's something that from a personal note, from a personal level, and something that I'm also hearing in this panel, is insanely unique, because there's a lot of dietitians who don't know how to make food delicious, who understand that you need 10 grams of fat and 20 grams of carbs, but how do you translate that to a plate, you know? And Johnson was what the knowledge that I got from culinary nutrition program is so far ahead and so unique that now I turn around and look back and look around me, and the people that are within the sports nutrition and that have the knowledge that I have is minimal. You know, I'm one of the few ones from looking around and trying to find actually people that I would like to hire. It's incredibly unique, being on this path and on this aspect. So don't think that what you're learning is, you know, something that a lot of people are learning. Johnson & Wales has had a very clear and unique vision with this program for a long time. So it's, you know, be proud of that.
Thank you so much for that. So our first question came from Chef Farron's class, and the question from one of the students is, what elective course would you recommend taking? Or what elective courses would you recommend taking?
I can jump in. Oh no, go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, at least with my career path. So I did 2 years of culinary. And then I had the opportunity at that time, there was the C4, N4, and, baking pastry 4 years. I felt that for me, I worked in the industry since I was 14. The first 2 years for me were relatively easy because I was in culinary arts and did all these things. So at that time, I was like, how about I take a bunch of stuff I have no knowledge in whatsoever, because college is the time to do that. So I would say, as far as electives, either pick something that you don't feel you got represented enough. So I wish I had more R&D classes at that time to take food safety, food science, and all those kinds of things. So I would have elected to take those. But the value that classes like medical nutrition therapy, nutrition in the lifespan that I took, that, you know, I was going to do R&D, this is irrelevant to me. Well, when you get out in the industry and realize you are helping shape kids' nutrition in Happy Meals, and how is that appropriately or inappropriately marketed towards children and families? How do you help in scenarios where there's a food desert and you are a fast food restaurant that a lot of your menu is not geared towards nutrition? How do you, translate what you learned in culinary nutrition or those classes into that world? So taking those classes I had no knowledge in was so helpful to my career, even though it was not necessarily the major I was going into. So I would say either pick something you don't feel like was represented enough for your career path, or go ahead and take something adjacent. If you are working in R&D, food safety is almost a #1 class you need to take, because if you are manufacturing for a restaurant that serves 31 million people a day and it is not food safe, your brand and company will go in the hole real quick. So think of other things that might be adjacent to the career you want as well, which would be very helpful in the long run.
Great answer, Mike. Thank you. Lynley, did you want to add anything?
I was going to say food safety is one of the things. I 100% agree, because like Mike said, you can lose your company overnight so quickly, just because you either grow your business too quickly so you don't have time to train your staff in the methods that they need, or you have trained your staff, but now your portions are too high. So no matter what, food safety is the absolute most important. For my personal journey, I wish that I had taken an accounting course, because even if you're going to be a head chef, even if you're going to be a dietitian, there's basics of accounting that you need for any type of leadership role that you're going to take. And the pun of my career is that Johnson & Wales Culinary Nutrition was set up so beautifully that they did teach on school nutrition. And guess who ignored it? And who is audited on it at least 6 times a year? So even the little things that at the time that you're there, you think there's no way I'm going to take that career path. Pay attention, keep your notes. I'm sure you're sick of hearing that, but speaking as someone that it would have helped a great deal when you're thrown at 14 schools out of nowhere. Just pay attention to everything, but please take accounting.
Thank you. Mario or Meaghan, anything you want to add to that question?
I think Lynley and Mike, they really covered it. Go with them.
Yeah, election. I would say whatever elections suit your career, to a lot of what Mike was saying or are adjacent, is the perfect way to go about it. it really depends on what you want.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. So our next question is, where do you see the future of food going after COVID?
I actually wrote an article on this. It's not published, but it's sitting right there, ready to be published. I think I'll take a stab at this. I think there's tons of changes coming, especially in the restaurant industry. I don't believe it's obvious that a restaurant in New York City cannot withstand operations by just selling food and beverage anymore because of rent, because of how expensive life is. And so there needs to be a change in how the business model of restaurants. I think a beautiful thing that COVID has given to the restaurant industry is losing the fear of delivery, right? Of food delivery. And so like so many restaurants are now doing curbside pickup, or the restaurant I worked at in LA is taking orders and cooking them with a skeleton staff and selling it at the farmer's market, or taking it to the farmer's market so that people can pick it up over there. So I think there's going to be a massive creative change within how business operation or business models are within restaurants, so that we're not found with our pants down once again. I would suggest you guys listen to Dave Chang's podcast. He has this segment called Too Small to Fail that talks and goes deep into this. I personally believe that restaurants need to get really serious about their brand and the marketing. Unfortunately, branding and marketing is not necessarily a massive thing within the restaurant industry. I think as chefs, we get to move past the idea that having our names in a casino is selling out, rather than having multiple streams of income from partnering with Cuisinart and having Chef Mike's brand of a smoker, or having a line of pans made with Maiden, just like so many chefs are doing now. And knowing that as a chef, people look up to us in ways of, okay, if this chef is using this salt, then I want to use it too. And having that positive effect on culture and society, because we are the leaders within the food and world industry, So those are a couple of points. I can go on and on about it, but I think that's how the restaurant and the food really industry is going to change. Hopefully we make that change.
Anyone else want to add? Mike?
Yeah, I can add in. At least when I was younger, I used to go, and especially people either in New Jersey or the diner. You go to a diner and there's 7 pages, or the Cheesecake Factory, another great example. 10 pages, so many menu items. How is it possible that you can serve all these menu items? Then things changed a little bit with actually Chipotle. That type of restaurant, that menu style was hyper acute. It was, we do these things very great. Now let's fast forward to COVID times. There are people who are making ghost kitchens, who are developing restaurants that have no physical footprint. They are literally just a delivery mechanism. They may have 6 or 7 different restaurant brands all being cooked and delivered out of the same kitchen. So once again, similar to what the rest of the panelists are saying, is how to be fluid in these scenarios. I would love to open up this hyper, very unique barbecue restaurant, but I will only be able to serve X amount of people who enjoy that. So being able to have a beverage brand, or, represent different sets of pans, or also be a mogul in other industries to have all these other income streams. I feel like the restaurant industry is going to get a little farther away from the in-person dining experience. And now, let's say, brands are now going to have their signature sauce also in retail. You can also get it delivered. We now use these 4 delivery services to get to you. We now also offer, instead of just Mexican cuisine, a variety of South American cuisines, because we can cross-utilize ingredients and market it in a specific way. So I feel all these brands, all these companies, and all these restaurants just are going to transition to be more of a brand that does a lot of different things, as opposed to the one mom and pop restaurant that does the one thing really great. That's at least what I foresee happening.
Thanks, Mike. Lynley?
Mike actually named pretty much the whole company that I'm building with my co-founder. So what we're doing is it's ghost and incubator kitchens, like you said, and all of the businesses, it's going to be about 53 businesses that they can utilize apps like Uber Eats, because a lot of ghost kitchens are already utilizing these delivery apps. The customers just don't know that they don't have a storefront. And then on top of that, we're making a means for them to kind of have their own privatized market where people can go to for their specialty items, like their sauces that they're making, so that they have another revenue stream, but it's all inclusive within their lease. So they don't have these absorbent rents that, like in New York, what's happening, they just can't even afford their rent. It doesn't matter what model that they put into play, without that 3 turnover rate at play, they're not going to come back from it, is the issue. But I also see COVID as an amazing opportunity for small businesses to make a comeback. That's why I'm so excited for this incubator kitchen idea, because it's kind of all of us as industry professionals taking a step back and going a little bit back to the basics on what people want. If we're not going for this full dining service, well, how can you be creative with the most prepackaged product there is? Because people are going to be afraid of what's been going on with COVID for years to come. Also, maybe there's a way to link into, maybe I'm giving away my next idea, but it's okay. Maybe there's a way to link into, okay, if I have to figure out this prepackaged game and still be the best chef, how can I do it that's so environmentally conscious that I can market it, but also cover my paper goods cost with my initial food cost? So I just see everything that's going on as an opportunity if you just wrap your mind around it and change the narrative on what you think the industry is supposed to be.
Thanks, Lynley. Meaghan, do you have anything else to add?
Sure. I'll just give it's a little bit of a different perspective, since I'm not in a kitchen, but, from my perspective as a dietitian, we're constantly educating and teaching people about cooking. And one of the things that I did was implement with a grant program, a cooking coordinated program inside of WIC clinics. So we had staff doing cooking demonstrations and teaching, moms and kids how to cook at home, which obviously I don't anticipate us ever doing again. So we're kind of revamping that to be virtual, and we haven't really figured it out yet, but it's an opportunity to be creative, as you guys have already mentioned, be creative and find gaps in the market and other ways to help people and kind of get the job done. So
excellent. Thank you so much. So the other question is, what advice did your instructors give you when you were in school that you ignored and now you wish you didn't? Whoever wants to go first.
Well, I had Chef Fuchs for meat cutting, so it's make sure to measure your margins in any reports that you send in, because you get points off for it. So that's the one. I have to think about that. That is a good question.
All right, Mario.
I think so. It's funny how with age your ideas change, and when I was in school, I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna read the book. Like, I'm gonna learn everything from the lectures. But now that I'm 10 years into my career, I'm actually rereading the book that Johnson Wells gave us, just kind of like re-going over the basics. And in an earlier panel, Stephanie, one of the panelists there, also said that stay humble and know that there's many ways of doing one thing, and you can continue to relearn it over and over again. I think what I missed the most was reading that book and really absorbing that information, to really own it, really being insanely good at it, So, yeah.
Thank you.
I think I finally did have, remember the one, and it was, upon graduation, your name is not going to be on the door. So 99% of the time, it's not going to be Chef Mike's restaurant that I'm opening upon graduation. You have to understand you're going to be working with other people. You're going to be servicing a specific customer. So instead of coming out and saying, you need to try my version of chicken Parmesan, you already have data at your fingertips on who's coming to this restaurant or using this brand, or who am I engaging with in whatever scenario you're going to work in. And just remember that sometimes you do got to take the chip off your shoulder and say, this customer wants a certain specific thing. I make vegan cuisine all the time. I am not vegan. You know, that's just not my thing, but I certainly appreciate that it's people's choice. And I, as a culinarian, should want to serve my customer as best as possible. And that means not forcing necessarily my opinion of things on them. However, if they come to me with questions, with whatever, I will be the first to give them all the information I have. But just remember, you are working with people, you're working with customers who are already established. So the chip on the shoulder thing, you need to get away from that and just learn to make a variety of things for whatever the customer may request, and just be confident that you can do that versus I'm going to make it my way. And if you don't like it, it's wrong. As much as I'd love to be a Gordon Ramsay and yell at the people, that's just, in my world, that is not how to be successful.
Thank you. Lynley?
I know for me, it was more or less a combination of all of the female chefs that I had as instructors. They all really brought back home to me that as a female in the industry, it can be significantly harder if your goal is to be a leader and not to stand on the sidelines. And I had to learn that in a very, very hard way. There's so much sexism, there's so much ageism out there, even more so for young females and young gentlemen that get into the industry. And I might butcher her name, which breaks my heart because she really impacted me, Chef Sweener. I remember reaching out to her before getting my job in New York City with the DOE and just asking for a recommendation because where my career was going, I wasn't really in the nutrition field anymore and I wanted her help. And she was so kind. She took 3 phone calls from me, gave me an amazing recommendation, and even would say, like, no matter what they're going to do to you out there, you've got to stay strong with what you believe, what cuisine you want to do. And as long as you're staying true to who you are, the accolades, promotions, everything will come to you over time. But yeah, all of my female chefs really impacted my career.
Thank you. Mario or Meaghan, anything you want to, Meaghan?
Sure. I will say it's going to sound cliche, but the importance of networking, I wouldn't say I ignored it, but I didn't really realize how important it was until probably a couple years in when, you know, you've maybe had a couple jobs and you're starting to meet people, but just always be kind and follow up. If you say you will, just do what you say you're going to, even if something doesn't work out. I will say you'll probably, if you stay in the same area geographically, you'll probably come into contact with people you've met, you know, years ago, and just always keep in mind that networking will come back to you in some way or another. So just keep that in mind, I would say. Yeah.
Thanks, Meaghan. Our next question is, what advice would you give to make the connections that could last a lifetime or help in the future? So it actually goes right in your comment, Meaghan, about networking. Anyone?
I could.
All right, Mario, then Mike.
Sure. Thank you. So again, I'm going to repeat what I said in my intro. The reason why I'm in the position that I'm in is because I did an excellent job at making a connection earlier on in my career, doing an excellent job in the job of itself, and continuing to nurture that that relationship over a period of years, which has led me to being here. So I think from personal experience, that's one connection that I made, but from personal experience, I've done that throughout my career with multiple people, multiple chefs, and it's about creating. It's just like you create a friendship with a really good friend, or you have a friend who you don't talk to, but you sort of keep in touch with, and that person can help you get to the next step. You know, so it's just nurturing those relationships long term, and you know, always being open, to Meaghan's point, to networking in whatever possible way, because you don't know who's going to be able to get you a connection to get you a specific job. So just being open to any kind of relationship, professional relationship of that kind.
Excellent. Thank you. Mike?
All right. So this is going to sound ridiculous, but I promise it's going to deliver. That everything I learned about kind of the networking, building a relationship, building a brand, and keeping people along, I learned by being in an incredibly unsuccessful original metal band. So you start a band with your buddies, with your friends. And how do you get people who have no idea who you are, never heard you, never engaged with you, never eaten at your restaurant? How do you get them to pay the $5 to come see you? And if you relate that to your career, so I need to be great in the community. So we are all in the food and beverage world. So if people in the food and beverage world, let's say a former college you used to go to wants to reach out so you can inspire the youngins there, that's a great opportunity to engage in that community. Obviously, we have a bunch of nutritionists and people who are very much promoting a nutritious lifestyle. Well, going to the trade shows, talking with people on the internet who have that same mentality. There are, other restaurants that are a similar style to yours, trade shows and other organizations you can be members of. So all these things of being engaging is incredibly important to retain fans or followers or customers or relationships. As much as I would love to say you are the greatest chef who's ever graced the earth, but nobody knows who you are because you serve food and you don't talk or respond or market. You assume people are just going to gravitate towards you when you open up a restaurant or when you start a band or whatever. And that is not the case. So you actively have to reach out to the communities you're a part of, whether that's like I said, the food and beverage or other organizations. Maybe you want more people represented at your place of employment. Well, engage in that community and follow up and actually respond, because enough people are famous and do famous things and you don't actually engage with them. You just see it and think it's awesome versus a famous person, oh, I love you, Mark Hamill. Star Wars is great. Well, if Mark Hamill likes a tweet or responds to you in any way, your head is going to explode and now you love that person more. So if, let's say, I influenced a young culinary student who then goes on to be the next Food Network star, if they respond, oh, Chef Mike was so nice to me back in the day, gave me encouraging words, said to engage in the community, so I reach out and support all of these other young culinarians, that is going to build your brand. That's going to be a positive impact for you, for your career, but it's also going to make those people want to continue to work with you, continue to associate with you, and it's going to keep those relationships much stronger than if you're, once again, the chip on the shoulder, high and mighty, I'm the best, here's the stuff, I don't care what you have to say. Just be engaging, and it's a two-way street, and that will absolutely help keep and grow your audience, whether that's you want to be famous, you want guests at your restaurant, you want people to listen to your obnoxiously loud death metal band. It's all the same to grow that.
Lynley?
I think the way that I've approached it, because I still stay in contact with managers, even some of my chefs from the New York City DOE, just because you want to maintain any connection that you have, because like all the panelists are saying, you just never know when it can come back to you. But the way I've approached it is almost thinking of it politically. Like people that have made it in politics, they appreciate every single little mini connection that they've made and they try to nurture it. Maybe that's not the best advice in the climate that we're in right now, but that is the way that I've always thought of it. So like everyone's saying, even for the role that I'm in, similar to Mario, I only have it because I communicated, had no end goal or anything malicious in mind for when I was talking to people about what I was looking for next. And it just kind of happens. And when you're open and honest that way, people see the true you, and they'll see your work ethic, they'll see your morals, and they'll see someone that's creative, that, oh, maybe I don't have a role for them, but you know what? I know they'll do whatever they have to do to get there. And that's how I've been able to build where I am.
Thank you. Meaghan?
I think I covered it before and everybody did a good job here.
Right,
So
all right, perfect. Our next question is probably going to be the last question based on time, but with mental illness on the rise, how does this impact the industry, and what advice do you have for someone struggling with mental illness working in the industry? Mike?
I can start with that one. So I think it's fortunate that we live in a time now where you can amplify people who may need assistance, as well as amplify those that are, let's say, negative to this world. In the food and beverage scenario, yes, working in restaurants are very hectic. Working in restaurants, especially back in the day, it's getting better now, but we're incredibly toxic. I think what's awesome now is there's a variety of organizations that actually work to bring awareness to these types of issues. Obviously, I am a gamer, so there's a group called like Take This, all right? And they set it up so if you go to a convention and you have social anxiety, they make sure that there is a room there for you to decompress that's incredibly quiet so that you can take some time and get rid of those stresses that you may feel in a heavily populated Vegas lights blinking and all these other things. So there's actually organizations that try to assist with that. Now, overlay that on the food industry, perhaps, and it's, with COVID coming on, that of course sets up a great scenario of how do you safely seclude people within your restaurant that may not want to associate with other people for whatever reason. There's a laundry list of, mental health issues and physical and mental disabilities that, like I said, there are organizations that are helping with that. So I would say reach out to those organizations and reach out to individuals that have been doing it before you. So I work a lot, like I said, with that TakeThis.org. There's a group called Able Gamers that help develop video game controllers for those who maybe have some dexterity issues with their hands, visual impairment, and all these things. There are actively people trying to solve these issues. So really try to reach out and find these communities that are incredibly supportive and helpful. Luckily, we're in a world now where funds are going to those organizations to help make a difference. But the good thing too is there are people who are struggling the same way as you. Reach out to them, because I would imagine there is nothing better than somebody who's dealing with the same issues as you can lend support to you and make your life better. That's probably, I would say, one of probably the happiest things that could happen to them, that they are making a difference. So reach out to them. And then when you are positioned to help, make sure that you do the same to continue awareness, education, knowledge, and help this industry and every industry deal with those types of issues that it's very hard. It's certainly a very hard thing to deal with when we know that there are people who somewhat don't care, but I guarantee you there are more people out there that want to help than want to hurt you. So definitely reach out to, similar folks as you or allies that can help spread that message across.
Thank you. Go ahead, Lynley.
I do want to say Mike's completely right, that just to jump in on what happened for me and my business during COVID was when everything kind of exploded for us and I had to change the whole business model almost for the third time. I'm on business model number 6 during COVID, by the way. But I remember that I needed to email out to all of our contracts of, listen, I have to change our hours because I have to take care of my staff's mental health. That's specifically what I said in the email. And I went into it going, if we lose people because I can't match the delivery times they want, I can't match the volume because I have to take care of my team, that's fine, because there is no business without the team. So I think for all of the new young leaders that are coming up, I would say once you're getting closer to kind of the job that's around the area that you're most interested in, look for someone that is a leader that will support you and can mentor you. And someone that's willing to lose business to help you, because it's very few and far between. And what I was most shocked by was the positive feedback that I got from just sending that out of, I'm going to take care of them no matter what. You guys are clients, but I'm nothing without them. And I had almost 30 contracts say, you know what, I respect the business even more now that you're willing to do that. So I think the industry is changing, and the benefit to COVID is people are more receptive to mental illness as well as health, that we're taking kind of the European mindset of, you don't need to work on the line when you have the flu. Dear God, please go home. Like, I'm glad that those type of things are changing for the better.
Awesome. Thank you. Mario?
Well, from a personal perspective, I would say if you're dealing with some sort of a mental, sorry, I don't want to be mental illness. Thank you. I would suggest getting help with counseling. There's no shame there, and or meditating. I think taking care of your own self in that way, because mental health is definitely just like exercising, and just like if you're a spiritual being, you believe in that sort of thing, there needs to be practice within that to be complete as a human being, right? So taking care of whatever is essential for your own health and putting that first versus killing yourself on the line, because that's what the reality has been, that we're moving away from that, which is incredibly exciting. But if you struggle with any mental health, I would say always take care of yourself first, seek that counseling, go see somebody, a psychologist or therapist, because that once you fix that, you're going to be able to be in the industry for a long period of time. And at the end of the day, longevity is the goal.
Excellent, thank you. Anyone else have anything to add, Meaghan?
Yeah, I would just say, be aware of your work-life balance. I know that can be easier said than done, but don't be afraid to speak up about it.
Thank you. All right, well, it's 3:15, so now it's my time to throw it over to Liza. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Bridget, and thank you so much to our alumni for joining us for today's discussion. You're a wealth of knowledge, and the experience you shared with us were inspiring and so appreciated. Please remain connected with us. We are so proud of you. Students, thank you for your participation in today's session. Alumni Relations is pleased to bring programs like this to you. One day soon, you will also be an alum and come back to JWU to share your story, and we hope that you will. This concludes today's session. Although a virtual presentation does not lend itself to post-event mingling, please feel free to connect with one another virtually to continue the conversation. Enjoy the rest of your day.